10 most underrated Flash villains. The Flash is the fastest man alive, meaning the Scarlet Speedster has amassed several villains while running throughout the DC universe. Many of these foes are well known, some even hedging their bets and teaming up as the rogues. In the case of other fast fans, however, there are a lot of other enemies of the hero who aren't as mainstream. Some of these enemies are pulled from more controversial eras of the Flash's history, while others are simply overshadowed by other foes. Despite this, they all have powers and abilities that make them a match in some way against the speedy hero. While not as prominent as Captain Cold or the Reverse Flash, these dangerous villains challenge the Flash family in other ways. Peekaboo was a teleporting menace. Peekaboo was a metahuman whose power was activated when she tried to do the right thing and donate her kidney to her father. Using her newfound teleportation abilities, she tried stealing another kidney as she could now not be touched. It took the combined powers of the Wally West Flash and Cyborg, a fellow member of the Teen Titans, to defeat her. Sadly, the other kidney that Peekaboo's father received didn't take, and he died in the hospital. The villain swore revenge against the Flash despite wanting to be a hero like him at one point. While she wasn't the most evil individual, her powers allowed her to outrun even the fastest man alive. Mob rule proved there was strength in numbers. Manuel Lago was a friend of Barry Allen's, though he was far more roguish than the Goody Two-Shoes. Part of this was resentment over his criminal father's killing years ago, and he underwent an experiment in a bid for vengeance. This gave him the powers to multiply himself with self-generated clones, with Manuel Lago now calling himself Mob Rule. Mob Rule's powers were eventually taken away by the Flash, though he tried to regain them and make more clones by drawing his own blood. Sadly, the villain hasn't had many appearances, namely because he was created during the New 52 era. This controversial period at DC Comics notably erased the legacies of numerous heroes including the Flash. The Shade debuted in the golden age of comics, fighting the original Jay Garrick version of the Flash. He also fought Barry Allen in the Silver Age, with the villain becoming known for manipulating shadows and light. The Shade represented the concept of legacy in the DC universe as much as the Flash did. As time went on, however, he became a hero after being defeated by the original Starman. From there, he became a mentor to one of Starman's sons and turned away from villainy. Most recently, he aided Hawkman in defeating the similarly umbral opponent, Shadow Thief. Murmur was the Flash's most murderous foe. Many of the Flash's enemies are colorful and somewhat whimsical, be the crooks with freezing guns and matching parkas, or gorillas with psychic powers. With Murmur, however, Wally West faced an enemy far closer to someone from Batman's Rogues Gallery, a brutal former surgeon who went on a killing spree. Murmur maimed himself and sewed his own mouth shut to keep him from revealing info about crimes. Though he lacks superhuman abilities to combat the Flash besides an immunity to toxins, he's still a devious and evil opponent. One of his schemes involved releasing a prison virus to kill all the guards. Due to his somewhat mundane nature, it's no wonder he was also introduced as a Green Arrow villain in the Arrowverse TV shows. The Trickster is more than a bag of gimmicks. Many might see the Trickster as a poor man's version of the Joker or the Riddler, though he isn't exactly a fearsome foe. He is an ingenious one, as he has numerous inventions and gadgets that can foil even the fastest man alive. Though most notable is a pair of shoes that allows him to fly. The Trickster is a good mix of the goofy generic villain troupe while still being able to hold his own against his rival hero. It helps that he usually works alongside the other rogues, though he is perhaps the most unhinged of them. There are also two versions of the villain, giving him his own legacy. Girder tested his mettle against the Flash. Girder started out as an enemy of the Flash after becoming a man made of living metal. This saw him team up with other enemies of the Scarlet Speedster following his escape from Iron Heights. Unfortunately, his advances towards Magenta saw him quickly dismantled, and he's fought various other foes since then. Despite his less than illustrious history, Girder is strong and sturdy, making him a threat to the Flash. It often takes teams such as the Titans or the high-tech hero Cyborg to truly combat him. Thus, while he isn't a classic member of the Rogues, Girder deserves a spot on the Flash's list of enemies. Johnny Quick was a different kind of Reverse Flash. The original Johnny Quick was a Golden Age speedster who was a contemporary of Jay Garrick. However, that wasn't the case in the alternate world of Earth 3, with the crime syndicate of the world having its own Johnny Quick. This was a man named Jonathan Allen, an evil equivalent of Barry Allen with none of Barry's heroism. One take on the character was portrayed as addicted to speed juice, a drug that ironically inverts the mainstream rogue's opposition to drug use. One classic story also portrayed the Flash defeating him by making him build up too much speed and collapsing. Usually, however, he has all the speed of the fastest man alive, with no morals, making him a deadly enemy. The rival was the first Reverse Flash. Before Eobard Thawne vexed Barry Allen, the Golden Age Flash had his own Reverse Flash, in the form of Edward Claris, known as the Rival. He had the same superhuman speed as Jay Garrick, but he used these gifts for evil. After being rejected by the scientific community, looking like the mirror image of the original Flash, he became a bitter enemy of his before being trapped in the Speed Force. The Rival later escaped and became a member of the Reborn Injustice Society. One of his first targets was Joan, the wife of Jay Garrick. He isn't the most iconic Flash mirror villain, but he is the first. Likewise, he was also adapted into the CW's Flash TV series, though he was given a much different costume and fought Barry instead of Jay. Savitar is an overlooked evil speedster. Radically reinterpreted in the Arrowverse, Savitar was a much different character in the comic books. A pilot from an impoverished nation, he gained access to the Speed Force and created a cult devoted to it. He also had the power to gift and steal speed from others, increasing his following through these acts. Savitar lived from several decades fighting speedsters such as Max Mercury, the Golden Age Johnny Quick, and the Wally West Flash. He was more of a threat to the entire Flash family than the Hunter Zolomon Reverse Flash, as the latter mainly had a vendetta against Wally. Most recently, he was behind Wally West being framed for the deaths of various heroes during the controversial Heroes in Crisis. Cobalt Blue cemented a Flash family rivalry. Barry Allen's most despised enemy is Eobard Thawne. This villain tied the Thawne and Allen families together, but he wasn't the only villain to do so. Cobalt Blue was Barry Allen's long-lost twin brother, who was stolen after birth and raised as a thieving Thawne. He was also one of Eobard's ancestors. Wielding the blue flame, Cobalt Blue, Malcolm Thawne used it to create weapons out of energy and even steal speed. Seeking revenge against the Flash, he faced his brother Barry and his nephew Wally West. This connection between the greatest and worst speedster of all time makes Cobalt Blue a conundrum, and he shows the dark side of the Flash legacy by looking just like Barry Allen.